We're talking about my Sachin, your favorite memories, your favorite memorabilia perhaps. You can call in on the show a little later on. We're talking to some of his legendary colleagues and some of his closest friends. Now let's go back to you, Shaz. You've already talked about some of the favorite innings. One of them is my favorite too, you know, after he had just sort of shed off that load of captaincy, coming out there and absolutely blazing the desert. Couple more innings that stand out in your mind, and how do you want to see him sign off?
Okay, you mentioned the two innings in the desert. I would say the 155 comes to my mind, you know, almost immediately in Chennai, because that turned the series around. Yeah. He got out to Warren in the first innings cheaply and then attacked him. Really counter-attacked him, hitting him against the spin, out of the rough, you know, into the crowds. And, you know, that turned the whole series on its head. I would say his double 100 in Sydney, you know, it might not have had the flamboyance of some of his other innings, but for the sheer discipline and the character he showed, you know, especially when going through a bad patch and then playing within himself and batting for that length of period, I'll put that up there. Of course, his 200s in Australia when he was very young, you know, the Sydney 100 and the Perth 100. And then there was this innings in England, which, you know, stands out to me. It was a test match with, I think India lost. It was in Edgbaston. You know, when he got 100, where the ball was keeping up and keeping low, and then the bounce was uneven, and India were in real trouble, and he counter-attacked and got a brilliant 100. There'll be plenty, you know, on the shelf there from Sachin Tendulkar. When someone's got 51 hundreds, just to count his best six would be very difficult, because there'll be, you know, numerous good innings. But these are the ones that stand out. Even the other night, as I was not there, but I saw some footage of him getting 100 in Melbourne. You know, where Brett Lee was clocking 151, 152. Again, India in trouble at 70 for 6 and helping India to save the follow-on. You know, that was a tremendous counter-attacking innings. And some of his best innings have come when he's played freely and counter-attacked. You know, I feel that's been Tendulkar at his best, when he's dominated, wanted to dominate, and, you know, take the you know, batting to the opposition.
I'll ask Brian, you know, what, according to you, batsman to batsman, would you pick as Sachin's finest innings?
The best might yet to come over the next 5 days. Let's hope that he gives us a treat come this test match. But for me, I would always look at the batsman and the frame of mind that he's in. And Sachin has played a lot of spectacular innings. But the frame of mind that he most likely was in Sydney when he scored 241, having struggled throughout the series, and India in Australia 1-all at that moment and needed to at least draw the test match to walk away with a drawn series in Australia. I believe that sort of pressure and fortitude that he showed throughout that innings was spectacular. The discipline, the commitment, not playing outside the off stump. I've seen enough shots of Sachin, so to see him with that amount of discipline and the way how he accumulated those runs, for me, that's a special innings. I would always cherish that one.
And John, you know, each of us has our favorite Sachin moment. What is yours? What's the best innings, according to you, that he's ever played in these 24 years?
His last 100 that he had scored, and I remember he looked up at the skies and it was rain at the end of a long drought spell, you know. I think that was one of the better moments. But obviously one moment that I remember, and this a lot of youngsters won't remember, was in '89. I think it was his first tour, and it was in Pakistan. I remember Waqar Younis bowled a bouncer and it hit him on his head, and he continued to bat after that. For me, I still get goosebumps when I think of that moment, because for me, a 16-year-old kid getting hit with a ball that's going at 150 kilometers an hour and then gets up and says, no, I'm fine, I can play on, and then goes on to score a half century or a century, I'm not sure. But I still remember the bravado. You knew that you had something special coming for the next 25 years. And that's exactly what Tendulkar's done. So I'd probably rate that as the best moment of, you know, my Sachin Tendulkar career life.
Ravi, we also believe John has a question for you. So let's hear the question, John.
Again, another moment, I mean, and this goes for Ravi Shastri out there, is that, you know, we still remember one of those moments, the champion of champions, where he won a car, an Audi, and they drove around the stadium. So another pillar of Indian cricket. So the The one question I'd ask, Ravi Shastri is, because a lot of youngsters want to know this, that Sachin was challenged as far as being tall is concerned, which Ravi Shastri is, and still he managed to play the bounce so well. So if he can throw some light on what gave Sachin that edge, I'm sure youngsters would want to understand whether it was a mind game that gave him the edge, or is it technique, or is it a combination of both?
Ravi, what do you say to that?
Fantastic question, John. How's that 10-pack doing? In any case, you can answer that later. But coming to Tendulkar, and you're talking about his height, and that's what made him stand out as opposed to the rest. Very quickly you realized at a young age that this guy picked up length, as quickly as anybody else in the world. Was fearless. I think that was the key, because he was a small target. He was like a midget at times, and there was no love lost with the fast bowlers. They wanted to hit him on the head, try and injure him, and he had to come up with a ploy of how to play them, and he showed it at a very young age in that first series against Pakistan, that he's quite prepared to counter attack. And what it did, it showed us a kind of footwork that was that had intent. It was pure. And, there was no half measures. Tendulkar at his best was never caught in no man's land. That's something I saw, when he was batting at his best. He was either forward or back, looking to attack, get on top of the bounce and play some shots which, you won't imagine a gentleman at 5'4", who's 5'4" in height or 5'5" in height, being able to do it.
A billion fans, a billion things to say about my Sachin. Now we're going across to our friends from Radio Mirchi, who have lots of fans with them. Let's cut across to you over in Ahmedabad.
केम छो टीना, केम छो आनंद। हिंदुस्तान एक ऐसा देश जहां क्रिकेट को रिलीजन माना जाता है। क्रिकेट एक धर्म है और सचिन क्रिकेट के भगवान, क्रिकेट के गॉड। और आज जब पूरी दुनिया, पूरा देश कह रहा है कि सचिन जो है अपनी आखिरी इनिंग्स खेलने जा रहे हैं, रिटायर हो रहे हैं, लेकिन रेडियो मिर्ची 98.3 FM अहमदाबाद कहता है कि सचिन कभी रिटायर नहीं होते। आइए।
दिलों में जीत की बेताबियां लेकर खेल रहे हो तो सचिन हो तुम। नजर में जुनून की बिजलियां लेकर खेल रहे हो तो सचिन हो तुम।
हवा के झोंकों की तरह छक्के उड़ाना सीखो तुम। दरिया की लहरों की तरह चौके बहाना सीखो तुम।
हर एक गेंद को खेलो तुम, खोले अपनी बाहें। हर एक मैच में एक नया शतक, देखे ये निगाहें। तिरंगे को ऊंचा लहराने की ख्वाहिशों के साथ खेल रहे हो तुम तो सचिन हो तुम।
Let's go across to Baj and ask him, Harbhajan, two things. Your favorite Sachin innings or finest Sachin innings, and how many times have you got him out in the nets?
Well, obviously he has scored many centuries. It's very difficult to say one or two, but for me, when I was on my first tour to Sharjah, probably those two innings against Australia was the best. I've seen him dominating the likes of Warney and all the Australian bowling lineup. And coming to the test, all his innings in Australia were brilliant. And just recent tour to South Africa, last tour against Dale Steyn and Maury Mokel, the way he batted was absolutely treat to watch. And I was in one of the innings, I was batting alongside with him, and he just told me that you just continue to bat the way you want to bat, and I'll do the job. And he's amazing. I mean, his two of those innings in Sharjah and just recent tour on South Africa was something special.
Absolutely. And Brian, I have to ask you this. Forgive me for saying it, but all those comparisons, you must have obviously heard about it all the time. When you're talking about the 241, did your jaw drop at any point in your career and say, man, this guy is better than me? Did you ever think that?
This guy is definitely good. But I think that he spurred me on. If you needed something, that impetus to move on. Knowing that being compared with him, and he'd be playing somewhere around the world, I might be resting on the beach in the Caribbean and trying to get myself ready for my next series. So he spurred me on to a lot of my performances. Just trying to keep abreast with him, trying to keep up with his tempo. And he's more of a positive. And at no point in time really I felt that I was not as good, you know, but I knew he was very, very good. So to be there and thereabouts, crossing the line with him in people's mind together, that was actually a great feeling.
That's a great answer also. Let me just quickly go back to Bhaji on that. You know, Bhaji, all this talk, all these years about Brian Lara versus Sachin Tendulkar, where do you stand on that?
Oh, well, it's a very difficult one for me to answer, but since you know, both these players are great, and of course they have dominated throughout their careers, you know, in whatever part of the world they have played, they have dominated the whole bowling attacks, you know, they have demolished. And for me, there is no comparison. You know, they both are great and both are legends, and I've got great respect for both of them. And for Sachin, probably a little more, because I've been very close to him and spent a lot of these years. Nothing to take away from Brian. He's been brilliant. You know, enjoyed bowling against Brian, and I enjoyed playing against Brian. But yes, it's been a pleasure playing with both the legends, and for me, both of them are great.
For the fans, the answer is simple, isn't it? Left hand Brian Lara, right hand Sachin Tendulkar, isn't it?
if you make it that way,
yes.
definitely.
But
like Bhaji said, you know, it's very difficult to say between the two of them, because the difference is just marginal. It's just a matter of choice. Because I personally felt I was following Lara's career all along, and you know, I have been a huge fan of Lara's. I like Lara for the fact that he played with so much of flamboyance. There was such a great element of risk in his game that made his game very exciting to play. That's what happens with certain players, you know, when they play with that element of risk, they become very exciting to watch. And a lot of his innings have translated into victories for his, you know, for his team, for his nation. Yep. So it's been great. Some of the innings that he has played in series, which you know, everybody knows are difficult. Like in Sri Lanka, he played against Murli Dharan when Murli was at his peak. He got some 600 odd runs, you know, and the entire team in the 3 test matches just got the same amount of runs. So it's unbelievable that how great these two players are.
Well, we're also going to be talking about Sachin the man, and as Shaz has already told us, the two men who know him best. We have Harbhajan Singh with us, and we're going to be joined by Zahir Khan after this short break, and we're going to get them to spill the beans on what happens outside of the spotlight.